Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining week number 2, Discipleship 101. Last week, we spoke about the resurrection. This week, we are continuing and we're talking about the truth. That's a question we have today. Can you handle the truth? And as always, we're going to start with a little video.
Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
And with a serious face like that, we will ask, can you handle the truth? Now, welcome to this presentation where we're going to attempt to get to the bottom of this question, what is truth? But we've got a bigger problem. The bigger problem is not if it's possible to get truth, to understand truth. Is it possible to get absolutely wonderful, real truth? The problem is not that. The significant problem is, do we really want to know the truth? So before we even going to talk about what truth is, we need to understand our attitude towards truth. Do we really want the truth? What if we find out what truth is and it is horrible? And if you don't like it, it's scary, it's ugly. And what if we find truth and it's the opposite of what you used to think or what you used to believe? So truth is only for the brave. And we're first going to talk about then this very important topic, not what truth is, but what is our attitude towards it. So can you handle the truth? And you see we used mirrors here. As a mirror typically don't lie. You know, you can think you look like Mr. World, but the mirror will just tell it as it is. So I'm going to explain truth by using boxes. Now, we're not going to get very philosophical. We're just going to have a fairly simple explanation of how we deal with truth using boxes. Now, the first box we're going to talk about, and I got this idea from somebody else, this specific slide, is the box of information. And this box, I want you to imagine that all the information on planet Earth, in the universe, every single bit of information is inside this box. Everything written down, everything not written down, every fact, every story, every piece of knowledge, nicely inside this box. Now, if you were to look on the inside of this box, you'll see everything about economics, religion, philosophy, journalism, technology, science, every single thing there is to know about biology, sport, and so forth, and so forth. So this is quite an impressive box. There's a lot of neat stuff in there. So if I were to ask you, how much of this that's inside this box do you know? Do you know maybe 10% of everything there is to know? Maybe 20%? So are you willing to say that you know half of everything there is to know? Now, that is quite impressive by itself. But there's another problem, and that is that there is still another 50% that you know nothing about. You don't even know that you don't know about that things in the other half. And you're totally clueless about it. So the reason why I'm showing this is very often we overestimate and we overrate ourselves in terms of how much we think we know. And that we often think we're very much smarter than what we are. So here's the first box, the box of information. There's some problems with this box. One is it's big. There's a lot of stuff to know. A second point is why this is problematic is there is this video on YouTube you can watch, the Dunning-Kruger effect. And it's a study they made where they look at information and they interview people. And in their findings, they found that dumb people generally overrate themselves. They think they're much more smarter than what they are. And I'm saying dumb people in inverted commas. Smart people, on the other hand, think everybody know what they already know. And so it's a very interesting scenario. Go check it out. Sometimes it's very hard to find truth. It's not that it's not reachable. You have to scratch. It's maybe in the bottom of the box and you have to look for it. So there's some interesting dynamics of this box. So I'm going to introduce yourself on the screen. So there you are. and there's our box of information. Second box we're going to talk about is the box of lies. It also have got some other names like the box of falseness, untruth, dishonesty, deceit. Now, similarly to the other box, this one is full. It's full to the brim. All sorts of lies you can ever imagine. It's not me. I'll call you later. I'll be another 5 minutes. The size of the fish you caught. I didn't say that. The traffic was bad. There's white lies, gray lies, black lies, all sorts of lies inside this box. So, looking at this box, the first problem we see there, it's full to the brim. Secondly, it's not labeled properly. This box looks exactly the same as the information box. You can't distinguish the one from the other. Okay, and so to present that, there's our second box. And again, you can't really see the difference between information and lies. Okay, next box is the box of truth. Now, this box is inside your head. Inside of this box, you file all the truth that you can identify. So, as an example, inside your head, you've got these two stamps. The stamp that says true and another stamp that says false. And if you receive information within a split second, you make a quick judgment as to is this statement true or is this statement false. And then we're going to do a little bit of brain surgery. I'm cutting open your brain, and there you go, the box of truth, which is inside your head. To illustrate this, someone is going to make a statement and say, the sky is blue. You're going to look at that statement and probably in a split second, stamp it true, and you file it where it belongs, in the true box. That's more or less how it works. Very simple, correct? Next is our box of garbage, also lies and junk and deception, all sorts of lies inside this box. The difference is this box is inside your head. So, a very serious box. Né? We hate it when people lie to us, so we've got a special place where we keep all of that. All the junk we've ever heard is inside that garbage box. To illustrate this, is somebody would say the sky is green. You look around, or you don't even have to look around. You just say, "Ah, man, that is junk. It's not so." You stamp it false and you deal with it appropriately and put it in the garbage box, not thinking twice. Okay, that's simple. Huh? Perfect system so far. We've got another box, and the final box we're going to look at is the box of wonder. Here you file things that you are uncertain about. You still need to think a little bit about it. It's not so easy to know if it's true or false. And you don't want to put it in true or the garbage box. So, you're just thinking about it. So, there you go. It's inside your head. And it works like this. Somebody will say, the sky is red. And then you think, you know what? At sunset, the sky does look a little bit red. Maybe that is the true color of the sky and maybe not blue. And you think about it, and somebody give you a fancy dancy presentation, and they convince you that it might be true, but you say, you know what, I'm going to put it inside my wonder box. I'm uncertainty box. I'm not sure where it should go. Anyway, in a very simplistic manner, this is the way our brain works. So there's a couple of problems. Like we said, those two boxes are the same. You can't really easily see where a true statement or a lie come from. Another big problem is with our stamping. Sometimes we're not sure how to stamp things, and we file things in the wrong boxes. So Mark Twain is attributed to say, it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that ain't so. You see, if there is a lie and you file it in the wrong box, that is how much energy, convincing, and work it takes for you to get that out of that box. It's oftentimes not as easy. So if your friend says, "Oh, the sky is green," and he believes it, it will take a lot of work, debating, fighting sometimes, and oftentimes families and long friendships that 10 years, 20 years old will break up because of something someone misfiled. And so, but what if somebody said there is a God, but he says false. It's not true, and he files it in the garbage box. You know how much work is it to convince that somebody, if it's even possible, that he filed it wrong. So that is the problem that we have here. And you can see it's very serious that wars have been fought just over how people perceive truth and how they file it within their true boxes. Okay, so it's not just normal lies. What about lies about yourself? Maybe your parents told you you're good for nothing and you will never amount to anything. And they've said it long enough that you actually believed it and you put it in your truth box. There's people that's taking many, many, many years to drop that lie. And it's not just truth about God or the circumstances around us. It's also truth about yourself, lies about yourself that we misfile. So it is a serious matter. Okay, the biggest problem in my concern is that we are not well trained to file the information inside our heads. And the reason why is, let's be honest, your brain has been hacked. Hacking is the art of putting sensitive information, adding sensitive information, deleting information unauthorized inside a computer. Now, inside your head, you have just listened to your parents without ever checking if what they're saying is true or false. You just ate it up. You just believed it. Or maybe professional Christians. You know, there's many denominations. Somebody must be wrong. So you've listened to a pastor, a dominee, a preacher, and maybe that guy was wrong. The biggest influence is media. We're sitting our kids in front of a television, and they're, you know, garbage in, garbage out. They believe, they don't necessarily believe it, but they see information and they might perceive that as truth. And your brain gets, in an unauthorized manner, you're just relaxing, sitting down, not thinking too hard, trying to switch off your brain. It's just processing stuff. And your school or your university, you know, maybe they've told you some lies. The fact of the matter is, inside your head right now, there are some stuff that is totally false. You are believing certain lies, and I think that's fair to say of everybody, including me. So, what does your truth box look like? What have you filed inside of there about God, about the situations in the world currently, you know, about science, about your faith, about yourself, that you put inside this box that should not be there? Okay. The thing is, they all told you what the truth is. It is just never that you checked it out. You just believed what everybody else told you. So by the time you were born, many lies was already embedded in society. It's not just a problem that you have. Your parents had it, and their parents had it. And by the time it hits you, it's probably generations and hundreds of years of lies, you know, that we just still believe and we never check. So there's this verse in Jeremiah. It says, "O Lord, my strength and my fortress, my refuge in the day of affliction, the Gentiles shall come to you from the ends of the earth and say," now I believe this, he said, shouting, "Surely our fathers have inherited lies, worthlessness, and unprofitable things." Yeah, it's even in scripture that it's possible that we inherit lies. Okay, so bottom line is, your brain looks like this. You know, my brain might look like that. We've got baggage. There's a lot of stuff we need to test and check and see what's inside, if it really belongs there. Okay, so how do you truly know? So this is my challenge question. How do you truly know you're not deceived? You know, this deception is the idea that you believe something to be true and you've got no clue that it's a lie. You don't even know that it's a lie. You're thinking it's the truth. It's not easy to see. How do you believe? How do you know that what you believe is not really just a nice fairy tale, just a made-up story? You know, Bible stories just made up. How do you really know you're not faking your faith? You're just doing it because somebody else is doing it. You're not really believing it, are you? How do you know you're not just a product of your culture, you know, and that you're maybe not just a statistic? Because if were brought up in a Muslim country, chances are fairly high that you would be a Muslim. And if you were brought up in a Christian country, chances are you would be a Christian. So you may be just a product of the culture. You've not really decided for yourself. You're just a statistic. How do you truly know that's not you? Then how do you truly know you're not just holding on and believing man-made ideas only, just man-made stuff? How do you truly, honestly, legitimately know this? So, challenging question. Are you willing to examine what is inside your truth box? Are you perhaps willing to shake out your truth box and check it out and see if whatever is in there belongs there? Now, this is really for the brave. It's not for everyone. So, if this is the road that leads to truth, are you willing to say, I will follow this road, does not matter where it takes me? If Adrian, is standing here, and if I look there in the future, Adrian standing there on the other side of the road, he might be different. He might talk different. He might act different. He might think different. He might dress, eat, walk different. He might be very different, and you might not even like him, there. So, if this road leads to truth, are you willing to walk it? Doesn't matter where it takes you. You have to be bold to say yes. So the big problem, and even before we start talking what truth is or how we can get to truth, is we are addressing this very biggest problem, is our attitude towards truth. Why do you care about truth? Why is it important? Do you love the truth? Do you really want the truth? It's much easier to believe a lie. Okay, attitude number 1. Truth must be loved. You must passionately love it. In this Bible verse, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, people will perish because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Ultimately, people will perish. Ultimately, people will be destroyed because of this thing. They do not love the truth. They hate the lie. Attitude number 2, the truth is not owned by you. It's much, much bigger than you. The truth is not owned by any professor, by any doctor, by any institution. It's much bigger than us. And we don't hold it ransom, and it's just in my pocket and not in yours. I often explain it like this. The truth is a big puzzle piece, and I might have 3 or 4 pieces, and maybe my friend next to me might have 5 or 7 pieces, The point is I've got a couple, and it's a journey to really learn what there is to learn. There's quite a lot, and my pieces need to fit into the whole bigger scheme of things. I only have a couple of pieces of the puzzle. Attitude number 3 is you must be courageous. You're going to have to look into that mirror and be prepared to see what you're going to see. People will hate you for telling the truth. Attitude number 4, speak the truth in love. Now, I see this often. People will get some major breakthrough in scripture. They see something amazing, and they will just box everybody and beat everybody to it, with it. And yes, while truth is wonderful, it's great, but let us speak the truth, not with hate, not with some complexity issues. I see people often, they think if they know the truth, they are more superior than you. They've got some superiority complex. Ooh, I know more than you. Other than you're still 10 years down the line. Just wait, you'll get there, kind of thing. And I actually had people say that to me. Not 10 years, 20 years. Okay, speak the truth in love. We've got the Bible verse even for that. Then, last attitude we're going to look at, it must be sought after. You must seek it. Sometimes the truth is not superficial. You must dig a little bit, get your hands dirty. I found this quote from Bruce Gore, and I thought it's quite nice. He says, let's never rest on truth we already have. We should be more preoccupied with the truth we are pursuing with the truth we are possessing. As soon as we build a monument on the truth we already have, we became heretical. There is still more truth that we have dreamt of in our philosophy. I thought that was quite nice. Okay, so we addressed our attitude, and I'm sure everybody listening is fired up and said, okay, I will follow that road. Doesn't matter where it leads me. I will follow the truth. So let's talk about then, okay, what exactly is truth? And for the sake of simplicity, again, this is not a philosophical class. We're just going to think it out straight. Truth is that which corresponds to reality. Okay, I love that quote, by the way. And here's a more simple version. Truth is telling it like it is, calling a spade in love. An accurate perception of reality. You see, on the one side, you have got reality, how things really is. And on the other side is your perception of that reality. Now, the further away removed your perception is, the crazier you are. And, the closer your perception matches reality, probably the more happier you are, the more mature you are. So we've got some perception of what we think reality is, how the world works, what is really real. And some of us have got a better view than others. Now, I love this picture. If you look at that small boy, he only looks through a screen. Now, all of us have got, some sort of a veil in front of us, and we kind of have to peek through it to see parts of reality and see how things really, really work and how life works. And, some of us just have got a better view than others. Okay, so what is truth according to the dictionary.com? Truth is the true or actual state of matter, conformity with fact or reality, a verified or indisputable fact, the state or character of being true, an actuality or actual existence, that which is true or in accordance with fact or reality. That's the dictionary.com. Okay, I've also searched the Oxford Dictionary. It's got pretty much the same. The quality or state of being true, that which is true in accordance with fact or reality. And then there's another one we need to think about a little bit. A fact or belief that is accepted as true. Now we're going to get to this, because does this mean if the majority of people believe something to be true, does that make it true? Okay, there's a bit of a nuance there. Let us investigate. What is truth? Truth is that which corresponds to reality. Now, it would be good if you can memorize this. If you're in a discussion and you don't have a PowerPoint or something next to you, this will come in very handy. Okay, so as an example, there's a statement. Okay, this is a chair. You look at that statement, you according to that definitions we just read, you check, is it true? Is it an actual state of matter, verified, indisputable fact, state or character of being true, actual existence, quality of being true, correspond to reality, in accurate perception of reality? We say yes, this statement is true, therefore this is a chair. Okay, so knowing truth is simply a method to judge if something is accurate or not. Okay, so as an example, this is a chair. We're just judging if that is true or false, like the stamps you've got in your head. Now, we need to just say this, that we need to agree on definitions and have the same frame of reference. Okay, so when we say we should have the same language, so if we call something green, everybody must agree, and I think that's where that definition comes from. We need to agree that this color is green, that color is red. We need to speak the same language, if you will. Okay, the best way to look at truth perhaps is to look at what it is not. Now, truth is not determined by consensus, meaning if the majority of people believe something, therefore it is true. So I shared something about my faith a while ago, and this person said to me, Adrian, what you are believing cannot be true, because most of the other believers that he knows do not believe this. To which I then respond, truth is not determined by how many people believe something. What is the consensus? Because if I was a very, let me state it differently. If I was a very persuasive person, and I could persuade people, you know what, tomorrow the sky is going to fall on your head, and the majority believe that, it doesn't make it true. Truth is not determined by how many people believe something. Okay? Truth also does not care how sincere you are. We should never confuse sincerity with truth. I personally know people that are very sincere, wonderful moral characters, better people than what I am, I would say. But the fact that they are sincere does not mean necessarily automatically that they've got truth. Let's just never confuse those two. Truth is not determined by how long people believe something. It's not time bound. Again, I spoke to this person. He said, Adrian, if you are right, it means I'm wrong. My grandmother is wrong. Her grandparents is wrong. And, so for hundreds of years, we've been wrong. To which I would respond, this thing, it's not determined by how long people believe something that makes it true. As an example, I am persuaded that we should baptize not infants, but we should be baptized once we can repent. And I base it on scripture. But that's now beside the point. I'm persuaded by that. But there's many people that's not persuaded like that. For at least 1,500 years, people have believed it's fine to baptize babies. Okay? So in my perception, they've been wrong for 1,500 years, and they're still wrong up till today. So we can't say that because somebody believes something for a really long time, therefore automatically it's truth. Truth is not determined by how long people believe something. Truth is not just what you can see. As an example, if you look at this dog, it looks like a very long dog. You can't always trust your eyes. So there's been some clinical studies made where they gave people small amounts of LSD, the LSD drug. And then these people would explain how they enter into another reality, bigger than this reality, they would say. And in one of the test subjects said they were able to have an orgasm in their elbow. Other people thought that they could fly. And who's to say that the reality that we saw is the full reality, and what they've experienced is maybe not the actual reality of things? Because if a drug can do that to our brains, perhaps it enhances our ability to experience reality. To which you can then obviously answer and say, if you've taken drugs and you feel you can fly, and if you jump off a building, doesn't matter what you think reality is, you will meet the reality face down on the ground. But still, the point is we can't always trust what we see with our eyes. It's not always just by observing where we can see and know everything. Okay, as another example, the rooster crowed and the sun came up. Therefore, conclusively, the rooster made the sun come up. That is the conclusions we would make if we only trust our eyes. Okay. Point number 5, truth does not need to make sense. Okay. Now, if you were to ask an honest scientist, and I've heard them, and if you were to ask him, what is energy? They will probably respond on how you can measure electricity, the effects it has, and go through all sorts of formulas. But when you ask them, okay, but what is it actually? They would simply say they don't know. Okay. The same goes if you ask an atheist, what is lightning? What is consciousness? They can describe things they can observe about it, but what it is, they cannot know. They do not know that. So it does not make sense to them, but irrelevant if it makes sense to them or not, we can still see it. It is there. Lightning is real. People die of it. The same goes for the Almighty, for God. Even if some things does not make sense, it does not mean it is not the truth. Okay, truth does not always make the sense. Okay, another important thing is truth can be tested. Now, people don't like the truth because they already have some sort of a version of truth, and oftentimes they will defend that truth, and they will get very mad if you try and dare to challenge them about their truth. But truth is like this. You can put it on a table, And you can try to cut it and slice it and box it and break it and paint it and do whatever you want to do. If it is a truth, it will stand. It's not dependent on me to defend it. Now, we should defend the truth, but the truth will still be the truth if I defend it or not. Okay, because it can stand on itself. Where many people try to hide it, and they're so worried that the truth might break. If somebody just dares to challenge them. No, if what you are believing is the truth, put it up there. If it's the truth, it will stand. You don't need to worry about it. Truth is that in its absolute sense. Okay, so the definition, a fact or belief that is accepted as truth. Now, we're going to get into another small discussion, because there's two schools of thought. The one is that truth is relative, and the other idea is that truth is absolute. So let's look at the relative truth first. The people on this side of the fence will say there is no objective reality. Okay, truth is really what I want the truth to be, and this is really the majority of people in universities, at least I would say. I think I'm safe to say that. Believe this, that there's no objective truth, no objective reality. It's only what I perceive reality to be from my perception, relative to me and to my perceptions of it. That is what reality is. My truth will look different than your truth. They will go on to say that I have my truth and you have your truth. There is not the truth, just our own perceptions of the truth. There is no objectively right or wrong, good or bad. Moral truth is all relative. Meaning, if there is an island of people that all practice, or that is all pedophiles, and they accept it as right, then for them it is right. But for us, it might be wrong. But in their perceptions of it, it's okay for them if it's right. It is a matter of what I want the truth to be, my perceptions, my preferences, my impressions. Now, we don't always have the same perspective, do we? So as an example, if I show this phone, and I know younger people might not recognize this as a phone, but if I were to ask this guy, explain this phone to me, describe it to me, they will say, yeah, it's orange, there's a screen, it's made by Nokia, it's got a couple of buttons, and they'll explain some things. If I were to ask this guy, okay, you explain this phone to me, he will say, oh, it's orange, there's a camera, it's made by Nokia, I can see that, but it doesn't have buttons. So these two people can, for hours, debate and argue about what a phone is. But it's just because they are looking at this phone from a different angle, from a different perspective. So there's this joke that I like. There's two cab drivers that met. Hey, asked the one, what is the idea of painting one side of your cab red and the other side blue? Well, the other responded, when I get into an accident, you should see how all the witnesses contradict each other. Because, we look at things from a different perspective. So if I've never seen a pencil before, the first time I've ever seen a pencil, I look at this and I say, okay, I can see that the pencil is kind of bent something there in the middle. That's my perspective, my relative perspective from my angle, my point of view. But yet we do know objectively that that's not true, that the glass is only, and the light is only bending the light. The water is bending the light so the pencil look like it's broken or it's got a kink in it. But objectively, it is straight. That brings us to the other school of thought, that truth is absolute. There are many perspectives and many persuasions, but ultimately, there's only one absolute truth. Truth is not my truth or your truth. It is only the truth. So you will soon get a pushback if you were to say this and say, no. Truth is relative. There is no absolute truth. To which you can respond, are you absolutely sure? Okay. Truth in this camp says truth is absolute. And Relative truth makes science impossible. If I determine science from my point of view and you from your point of view, it would not be possible to determine science or justice. If you're going to go to court and, what's right and wrong is determined from different perspectives, it just makes it impossible. So relative truth makes truth also meaningless. Because if your truth and I've got my truth, what's the meaning of it? What's the importance of it? It's not that important. It's not that meaningful. So the other argument that can be made is that nobody really believes that truth is relative. Because you can stand on a busy highway, and if there's a truck coming for you, in your la-la land, in your mind, you can think what you want, you can perceive what you want, but you will meet absolute reality once a truck's hit you, okay? It doesn't matter what your perceptions or your idea of it. Okay, so there's another short video I just want to quickly play.
There's been a lot of talk about identity lately, but how far does it go? And is it possible to be wrong? We went to the University of Washington to find out.
Are you aware of the debate happening in Washington State around the ability to access bathrooms, locker rooms, spas based on gender identity and gender expression?
I think people should be able to have access to the facility.
I think bathrooms could and potentially should be gender neutral because there doesn't need to be a classification for differences.
I think people definitely should have the ability to go into whichever locker room they want.
I feel like at least public universities should do their best to accommodate for those who do not have a specific gender identity.
Whether you identify as male or female and whether your sex at birth is matching to that, you should be able to utilize the resources.
So if I told you that I was a woman, what would your response be?
Good for you. Okay. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
I'd be like, what? Really?
I don't have a problem with it.
I'd ask you how you came to that conclusion.
If I told you that I was Chinese, what would your response be?
I mean, I might be a little surprised, but I would say, good for you. Yeah, be who you are.
I would maybe think you had some Chinese ancestor.
I would ask you how you similarly came to that conclusion and why you came to that conclusion.
I would have a lot of questions just because on the outside I would assume that you're a white man.
If I told you that I was 7 years old, what would your response be?
I wouldn't believe that immediately.
I probably wouldn't believe it, but I mean, it wouldn't really bother me that much to go out of my way and tell you no, you're wrong. I'd just be like, oh, okay, he wants to say he's 7 years old.
If you feel 7 at heart, then then so be it. Yeah, good for you.
So if I wanted to enroll in a first grade class, do you think I should be allowed to?
Probably not, I guess. I mean, unless you haven't completed first grade up to this point and for some reason need to do that now.
If that's where you feel like mentally you should be, then I feel like there are communities that would accept you for that.
I would say so long as you're not hindering society and you're not causing harm to other people, I feel like that should be an okay thing.
If I told you I'm 6 feet 5 inches, what would you say?
That I would question.
Why?
Because you're not. No, I don't think you're 6'5".
If you truly believed you're 6'5", I don't think it's harmful. I think it's fine if you believe that. It doesn't matter to me if you think you're taller than you are.
So you'd be willing to tell me I'm wrong?
I wouldn't tell you you're wrong.
No, but I say that I don't think that you are.
I feel like that's not my place as another human to say someone is wrong or to draw lines or boundaries.
No, I mean, I wouldn't just go oh, you're wrong, that's wrong to believe in it, because I mean, again, it doesn't really bother me what you want to think about your height or anything.
So I can be a Chinese woman.
You sure.
But I can't be a 6'5" Chinese woman.
Yes.
If you thoroughly debated me or explained why you felt that you were 6'5", I feel like I would be very open to saying that you were 6'5", or Chinese, or a woman.
It shouldn't be hard to tell a 5'9" white guy that he's not a 6'5" Chinese woman. But clearly it is. Why? What does that say about our culture? And what does that say about our ability to answer the questions that actually are difficult?
Yeah, that was both good and shocking. So, okay, to come back from the camp that says truth is relative, they will ask this good question. Truth is that which corresponds to reality perceived by who? You or me? And the response then is, truth is that which corresponds to reality, not from your perspective or my perspective, but from God's perspective. You see, you cannot talk about truth, absolute truth, without bringing God into this picture. Its truth is not from the left angle or the right angle. It's from God's perspective, his angle. Okay, so if truth then is absolute, what would be the requirements for it to be so? Good question. So, absolute truth is universal, meaning 4 plus 4 equals 8 in South Africa, in India, in Canada, in Europe. It's all over the same. Truth, what is truth in India is also true in another country. Absolute truth is that in its fullness, in its completeness, not partially. Now, I've heard a story from a friend whereby this guy was supposed to be at work and his telephone ring and he's in a mall and he sees it's his boss phoning. So he quickly ran inside the toilets and he picks up the phone and says, sorry, I can't speak now. I'm in the toilet. And he puts down the phone and then he walk out. So question, did this guy speak the truth? You can say, technically, yes, he was inside the toilets when he picked up the phone, but that is only a split couple of minutes. If you look at the whole picture, the full story, if you were to stand outside and see everything happening, can you say, you know, this guy did he not deceive his boss? So truth is not just that 1 5-minute section. It is the fullness of the story, the bigger picture of it. So just by looking at truth is always full truth, you know, there's a lot of things that we believe, that we think about, that is truth, but it's only partial truth. It's not that in its fullest sense. Okay. Absolute truth is infallible. Sorry for the spelling there, but absolute truth is infallible. Now, I've heard that the Pope apparently is infallible, meaning he can never be wrong. Whatever he says, any letter he writes, will always be 100% correct. So when I heard that, I thought, wow, that is something which I don't think is true. But I like that definition for truth. Truth can never be wrong. I don't have an example in front of me, but I remember that in the 1970s, they believed the earth was something like 500,000 years old. And in the 1980s, it was 1 billion years old. And the age got old, the earth got older every single year, every 10 years, earth got older. We now believe, I think since 2008, correct me if I'm wrong, they believe the earth is 4.6 billion years old. Every 10 years or so, the earth gets like 1 billion years older. That is what science apparently tells us. So now that can't be truth, because if it was wrong the first time, and wrong the second time, wrong the third time, you know, it's not absolute truth. It's wrong every time. So we cannot say that that is the truth if it changes every time. Absolute truth cannot contradict. Absolute truth does not change. It's always the same. It's not changed by my perception or my ideas. It's always as it is. Okay. Truth makes sense, but not necessarily your sense. Okay, so before I wrap up, let's just review our attitude that we should have. So truth, number one, must be loved. Truth is not owned by me. It's much bigger than me. You must be courageous for seeking and searching and talking the truth. You must speak the truth in love. And truth needs to be sought after. These are all attitudes that we should have. And then, in summary, truth is not consensus, meaning it's not how many people believe something. Truth is not defined by how sincere people are. It's good that people are sincere, but that does not qualify them to automatically be true always. Truth is not time-bound, meaning it doesn't matter how long people believed something, therefore it's true. Truth is not what you just see. It's more than what your senses can observe. Truth does not need to make sense. Truth can be tested. Truth is absolute. Absolute truth is universal. It's always in its fullest sense, full truth. It's infallible. There's no contradiction, does not change. There's this famous story about the Canadians, and I guess most people have heard about it, but it's said that the forensic department in Canada, looking after fake money, is quite good at their job. And the story goes that they've once asked these guys, why are you so good? You're better than any other country in the world to find fake money and to seek it out. How do you do it? And they responded that, that they spent many hours, many days studying the real note, the truth note. And once they see a fake note, they can easily identify it. So they seek truth by just looking at truth, and they can easily find the lie, by knowing truth that well. So in summary, there's all these boxes, there's information, the garbage box, the wonder box, and then this box in our head that we thought is the truth is actually not the truth. There is something like relative truth. Bubblegum ice cream is not my favorite. I like chocolate more, and that is true. No, that's just my relative truth. It's truth from my perspective. But that's not real truth. There's another box, and that is called the absolute box, the absolute truth box. And that box is much smaller, and you should be careful what you put inside of there. There's a lot of things that we do not know for an absolute fact, and therefore that box should be, fairly empty, hopefully full, but it should be tested. That's the point I'm trying to make. That brings us to the end of our discussion on part 2, truth. I hope you guys will be blessed, and we look forward to seeing you again.